Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is Beyond the Bell, brought to you by the Oklahoma Education Impact Initiative.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bell, brought to you by the Oklahoma Education Impact Initiative. I'm Tatum Gwynn. In this series, we have talked about why education needs to be front and center for all Oklahomans, the challenges and opportunities of AI, and really digging into why reading matters. Today, we are going in depth with the person at the helm of the Education Department, and one that is in charge of making impactful change to education in Oklahoma. State Superintendent Lindel Fields has been in office for 2 months. We had the opportunity to sit down with him just a few weeks on the job, and we are going to share that conversation in its entirety today. Superintendent Fields laid out 3 goals for his time in office: address teacher recruitment and retention, reading proficiency, and college and career readiness. We touched on all of those in this interview. He says there is a lot of work to be done. The Oklahoma State Department of Education released its 2025 report card on December 1st, giving a snapshot of where Oklahoma schools stand from academic performance to graduation rates and everything in between. And looking at just performance, almost 3/4 of Oklahoma students are not meeting proficiency in English, math, and science. It's a tall task, and one Lindel Fields is up for. Here is our conversation. You've been in office a few weeks now. How's it going?
3 weeks today. If you'd asked me last week, Tatum, I would have said, you know how you're in the swimming pool and you look up and you can see a little bit of sunlight at the top of the water? That was last week. This week, my nose is above water. I think we're making great progress. 2 board meetings under our belt. Made a couple of big decisions. I'd say things are going pretty well.
What have your priorities been these first few weeks? Just kind of getting your footing, getting familiar with everything. Walk me through that.
Yeah, a couple of priorities. So we have the state agency that I lead, State Department, several hundred employees at the agency. So getting to know them, getting folks settled down. They've been through a transition, and that's a lot. But then we have work to do for the state, and getting that work done required a special board meeting to address some teacher licensing, and then this most recent board meeting to pass a budget for the next fiscal year. So the agency and then statewide business. So it's been a dual focus.
Sure. Well, of course, the wheel is always turning there. So it's keeping things going as they have to, while also taking on a really big job.
Sure.
When you were appointed, you said that you bring the perspective of more than 30 years in education. That includes over a decade as a public school superintendent. You led one of the top performing organizations in the country. So how are you going to bring that perspective to the table to lead this state organization?
Mm-hmm. So being in public education, I understand the perspective of all educators, teachers, support staff, and then being a superintendent, the challenges that come with that, and the good things that come with that. Since retiring, I've been in the culture business, working with schools primarily and other entities with workplace culture. So the things I used at Tri-County, I used in the consulting business, now in running the SDE, and even leading the education philosophy across the state. So I believe it's about culture in all of the schools. So superintendent, public school, then my culture work, using both of those to lead the state agency.
So where in there have you found success? You've been successful in your past jobs. How are you going to find that success in this role?
So it's not complicated, but it's hard, and it takes consistent communication. So you start with communication. That's what I've done at the agency and with the state. Communication, you get that right, then you can start to build relationships. It's my hope over the next 60 or so days, those relationships will start to lead to alignment with the legislature and other stakeholders. So right now, communicating, letting the employees know what's going on, let the state know what's going on, and starting to build those relationships. So very basic stuff that will make all the big difference.
We hope so. There's education up until this point. There's been a lot of conversation about education. A lot of it has been negative up until this point. And one thing that I have noticed in all of these conversations, you turn on the news, you see one thing, you open up social media, there's another thing. None of it has been about what's happening in the classroom. So how are you going to change that? How do we bring that conversation back, focused on the classroom and doing work to make those improvements that are needed?
Mhm. That's why I'm sitting here today. So I felt kind of a black cloud, kind of a spirit that wasn't something I liked hearing and seeing in education. And so in April or so, I decided to do something about it. So I started thinking about what I could do, and lo and behold, I end up right here. And I think it just starts with appreciating people. Tatum, I believe that teaching is the most noble of all professions. So somebody who gives of themselves to make somebody else's life better, what gets any better than that? So it starts with appreciation. People need three things. They need proximity to the leader, they need meaningful work, and someone to say, I'm proud of you. You do those three things, people move mountains for you. So let's start by appreciating those people that are teaching our most precious, our children. So that's what I'm doing different.
And the concern from public parents and educators until this point around education, they've voiced very real concerns. Look at the test scores. There's a lot of room for growth. Where do you start?
Yeah. Well, we have 15 months. I'm not under any kind of illusion that we're going to go from 50th to 30th or 20th. I think we can make some real changes in 15 months. You know, a child can go through a grade and a half in 15 months, so we owe it to them to do our best. The only thing I know to do is work on the fundamentals, the X's and O's, and that's why literacy is one of our priorities. Literacy, teacher recruitment and retention, and then pathways, kind of the later stages of education. You know, we have 12 to 14,000 students that graduate every year that don't do anything. So I want to focus on them. But I think we start with the basics, Tatum, the X's and O's, literacy, and teachers. If we do that, then we can start talking about the plays we need to put in place to really move that needle.
Let's talk about these priorities that
Sure.
you've laid out. The first being reading proficiency. So the new state test scores, they came out. It shows nearly 3 in 4 Oklahoma students are not proficient in reading. What is your approach going to be in that area?
Well, I think we have to get aligned as with all of the stakeholders to recognize, first of all, it's not an overnight fix. We have to be committed to this long term. You can't walk around the block today and run a marathon tomorrow. We have to be committed to something significant. You probably heard a lot about the Mississippi Miracle, and I have too, and I'm learning about that. Lots of things in there that we can do, but I think first of all, getting everybody aligned and understanding that's a priority. So I hope I can bring the attitude of camaraderie to get everybody aligned to make that a priority, so we can start teaching the right things to help with literacy. You know, we hear that kids don't like to read. Well, nobody likes to do anything that's hard. And if you get to 3rd and 4th grade and you've been struggling with reading, it's not fun anymore. So we got to get it earlier. And so we have to get our teachers trained to help our students learn better.
So is the solution more training? Is it a different kind of curriculum? Is it a whole different approach in the way that we are teaching reading?
I think it's all of those things. I think it's training, a different approach. I think if we were just talking about the scores only, I think we could agree that it's not working as good as it could. So I don't know that we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I think a whole new approach, and it starts with teacher training, literacy coaches perhaps, is a good start. So looking at all of those things, I think is important.
You said something in another interview
Sure.
that I had read, that it's not so much about making change, what you need to do, but it's making it meaningful. What do you mean when you say that? You want meaningful learning. You want a meaningful approach to some of these challenges that are at your foot.
I don't remember the exact comment that you're referring to, but I think when you think about meaningful, we throw a lot of things. We throw a lot of things at education, new shiny things, So I suspect I was talking about, um, well, let me back up. The best organizations say no to almost everything. Let's focus on what really works, and that's meaningful. Instead of trying to do everything, find out what we can be really good at. And I think that's the basics.
Keeping it simple.
Keep it simple.
One of your other priorities, of course, is teacher recruitment and retention.
Right.
What will your approach be in that area?
Well, I think we have to collectively set the tone that teaching is admirable, that it's a good thing. So people start to get back into teaching. And so it starts with an attitude. Then I think it's leadership in the schools, leaders that set the tone, that create a culture. I don't think teachers leave schools, they leave toxic cultures. So that's one component of that. But again, creating a tone where we appreciate teachers. Since in the last 3 weeks, no less than 10 calls or emails about people who were about to leave or had just graduated and weren't going into teaching, but are. So one specifically had an interview today, and I'm wishing them luck. They weren't going to teach as of Monday. So I think just this energy that, hey, we need you and you can make a difference. I think we start there.
Sure. There's been big change at the state level.
Right.
And we hope that will recruit more.
Sure.
What about the teachers that are already here? They, how do you keep them? How do we find a way to keep them in the classroom and to be maybe reinvigorated for this work that they do?
I think the tone helps. Folks that have been in the trenches that maybe are tired and maybe even feel trapped. I think it takes a community. So parents trusting their teachers that they're working in the best interest of the students. I've said on many occasions, we want parents to fight for the highest possible good of their children, but the teachers want the same thing. They're doing what's in the best interest. And I think as a community, less focus on social media and going to the source. I think having respect for the teachers, to go to the teachers, perhaps not airing our grievances on the internet and using that as a platform to try to solve problems and following the chain of command and respecting the school for what it is, the people that are helping to raise your kids. So I think it starts there. And if teachers feel respected, I think they'll stay.
How do you work to rebuild that partnership and relationship with all of our school districts? And then, by osmosis going down to our teachers. There's, like you said, there's been this feeling of a dark cloud.
Yeah. Well, boy, that's a tough question. I think just bringing the positive energy to it. Public schools are doing a really good job and can do a good job. So let's give them a chance. As educators, we have a part to play in that too, right? So we have to do our part and walk the talk. But give them a chance, and let's talk highly of our most noble of all professions.
Sure. What about emergency teacher certifications? A really big, and it's not just a problem that is specific to Oklahoma. There is a teacher shortage nationwide.
There is.
One of the solutions that we have had here in the state is to issue these emergency teacher certifications to get more people into the classroom. Is that a viable solution to try to solve this shortage? Is there a pathway to get these teachers, they love this career, maybe it's something they want to pursue long term? Have y'all had those kind of conversations?
Yeah, we had that. And just this morning, we met with maybe 50 or 60 superintendents and talked about emergency certifications. And they need those. They need those right now. So the real question is, how do we train those teachers? Teachers that have had a skill or been in industry and want to go into teaching, or even teachers that are already there. How do we keep them trained up? We don't just graduate college, go into teaching, and never get trained again. So we have challenges with professional development, but finding a way to work with those emergency certified teachers. We know that folks are going to go into teaching now, sometimes for just 10 or 15 years, not 30 or 40 years like they used to. So they're going to come in at different points. So emergency certifications as it's defined right now, maybe there needs to be some changes, but for the immediate future, they're very necessary. Superintendents need them, so they need some flexibility on how to get them trained within the schedule to ensure that they understand the pedagogy and how to work within in a school. So I think emergency certifications are here for a minute. It's about how do we keep them and get them trained.
Sure. Do y'all plan on maybe, how do I want to ask it? Your teachers are the people that are on the front line. They are working with students every day. If you want maybe a big group think on how do we improve education, they may be the first people you should ask. Have y'all had those conversations about what should our solutions be to kind of up the ante to really move the needle in education?
We haven't had those conversations directly. I've gotten tons of messages and emails, very kind messages, by the way. Lots of people that are willing to enter into the conversation. Today was maybe our second conversation with superintendents. I just got off the phone with our chief of staff about working with the state chamber and other chambers to bring those people into the fold, to talk to them about that. Folks just want to be heard and listened to. They have great ideas, so what you're talking about is real important. We haven't got there yet, but that's something we're planning to do.
That's interesting. Did you expect to have that kind of feedback almost immediately? It seems people are eager to want to make a change.
No, I didn't see that. I didn't see that coming. I think we fielded over 1,200 messages in the first couple of weeks. So no, I didn't see that coming at all. So I think I've answered them all. If I haven't, please let me know. So yeah, eager to talk with those folks. So just a little bit at a time, but we don't have a lot of time. So we'll be out there and visiting with those schools real soon.
So you've got 15 months.
Right.
You've got a very big job.
Mm-hmm.
What will be a success for you? 15 months, you're at the end next, January 27? What would look like a success for you?
Yeah. A measurable success is really going to be hard to put out there. 15 months is not that long.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about steadying the ship, and then I said, well, I want to build a strong foundation for the new person. And now I'm like, if I could just get the ingredients to build that foundation where the State Department hasn't had a lot of turnover, the culture is going in the right direction, people are happy, I think that's a good starting point. And there's just congeniality among all the stakeholders about what can happen for education. I think that's a really good start. There's potential for some legislation, but we're not even to the session yet. We just passed a budget. So if we can use some of those dollars in unique ways to prop up some of these things we talked about, maybe we can see some meaningful gains. But to put a target on it this soon is going to be hard. But I think in 15 months we'll see a big difference.
You talk a lot about culture change.
Mm-hmm.
That takes time.
It does.
Trying to move the needle when it comes to student performance, that also takes time.
Right.
But time is of the essence.
Sure.
So how do you balance wanting to really move the needle? We don't want to waste time here, but also keep a realistic mindset of, it's okay, we need to take our time. How do you balance those two things?
Yeah. So, I'd like to say that the tortoise always wins the race, right? Steady and deliberate, but we don't have a lot of time. There are things that schools can do. We have culture killers in our organization. Sometimes we feel like that there's things that we can't do. But as I spend time with groups, keep talking about just even communicating that dissemination of information is not communication. Get out there and start to have two-way communication. That in and of itself can create a culture shift in an organization almost instantly, overnight, just by having those two-way conversations. And then there's other little techniques, but I think we can make some measurable difference. But are we gonna become the top place to work over 15 months? Probably not, but it is a realistic goal that can happen over a few years.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
What are you passionate about as an educator? I saw your eyes light up when you were talking about teachers. When you talk about culture, when you just talk about your job in general, what is it that gets you up in the morning? What makes you excited about this job?
Yeah, well, I was an educator for, 30 years and a business owner for a few years, a whole different world altogether. I think people are my gift. I'm helping them find their gifts, find their strengths, and fight for their highest possible good. It's what I want to do. And I think converting cultures is what I'm passionate about, creating great places to work where people can thrive. People spend so much of their lives in their jobs, and it doesn't have to be torture. Work doesn't have to be torture. It doesn't have to be a grind. And, in education, it's like, I can't wait for school to start. Oh my gosh, will spring break ever be here? Will Christmas ever be here, right? We're looking for the next thing. I don't want it to be like that. Just enjoy going to work every day and pouring into somebody. So I'm passionate about, changing the culture and organization and bringing the best in people.
Have you felt a shift? I know you're brand new on the job. Does it feel more positive walking through the doors? Are you seeing more people smile? What is it like when you're coming?
You tell me. I don't know. When you're from the outside, people are smiling. I imagine people are avoiding me too, right? So I feel like there's a shift in at SDE. I feel like there's a shift in the meetings we're going to. People are smiling. I was at a conference yesterday, and I'm like, this is a really fun group. And they said, well, this is the first time in a long time. So I think that speaks for itself. So I think that it's only 3 weeks, but
Sure.
I feel like there's been a B12 shot, a little bit of injection.
I like that. We spent a lot of time talking about culture change. It is one that he's already started to work on, in addition to scrapping a few of the initiatives started by the previous administration. We hope to have more conversations with Superintendent Fields and share them in this space. We thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next episode of Beyond the Bell.
Beyond the Bell, brought to you by the Oklahoma Education Impact Initiative.